Hello, welcome to our video about solving a matrix equation. First, before we even solve anything or do anything, let's think about just a normal equation. So if I have this equation 5x equals 10, then you know back from your Algebra 1 days or your 8th grade math days or whatever, that x would end up equaling 2. You would divide both sides by 5. Well, since this is multiplying, you divided. That is the inverse operation. When you solve a matrix equation, you also have to do the inverse operation. So let's do some setting up of a matrix equation and kind of show you how it works. So we have, if you notice, we have two equations and two unknown variables. A very common thing that we see often. Usually we would solve this by using substitution or elimination. You can do this in another way using a matrix. So first, you're going to make your coefficient matrix, which is comprised of just your variables in front of your x's and y's. And you want to stay consistent. So you want to keep it basically like it's written. You want all your x's in a row and your y's in a row. So you have 2 and -3 for your first batch of x's, and then your y's would be -3 and 5. Again, be careful. Make sure you're paying attention to your signs. This is being multiplied by x, y. Now we write it like this because technically, if you were to multiply this back out, remember you do row times column. So you would do 2 times x plus 3 times y, or plus -3 times y. And you end up in the exact same situation. Same thing here. You would have -3 times x, and then 5 plus 5y. So that's why you're allowed to do that. You're basically rewriting this, the left side, in a different way. And then it equals the right side. The right side is -1 and 3. So there is a way you can solve this by hand, but it's very tedious. So we're going to actually turn to our graphing calculator. So get that out if you don't have it out already. And we are going to do some matrix operations in our calculator. You may have done this before, you may not. Just kind of depends on your previous math courses. So first, what you're going to do is you have to put your two matrices in your equation, so in your calculator. So you're focusing on the one I have written in green and the one I have written in red. So you want to go to your matrix menu. Depending on your calculator and the version of your calculator, you may or may not have a matrix button. In my particular version of a calculator, it's not. It's right here above the x to the -1. So you're going to do second matrix, and it brings up this big menu. So you'll notice we have one called names here, and then we have math, and then we have edit. First, to get each matrix in, you have to go over to edit and then hit enter. So you want to make sure you give it the correct dimensions. This first green matrix that we're putting in is a 2 by 2. So you're going to type 2, enter, 2, enter. And then you just type in your numbers, hit enter in between each one. So 2, and it'll automatically move you over to the other one. And then I'm going to punch in -3. You can use the arrow keys, but a lot of times it's just easier if you hit enter. -3, and then 5. Again, after the last one, make sure you hit enter, otherwise it won't put it in. Okay? So then you got to go back to the matrix menu. So second matrix again. Again, go over to edit. Oh, if you notice, in the names, now it has a 2 by 2 written next to it. So you kind of have an idea of what it is. So now we have matrix B. We can just stick it in matrix B. Matrix B, be careful. Is it a 1 by 2 or a 2 by 1? It's a 2 by 1. If you put it in wrong, you know right away that you're wrong because you don't have the right dimensions. You can always use the arrow keys to go back up to the top and fix it. 2 by 1. So now we're putting in the red one. Over here, it's -3 and 3. Sorry, -1 and +3. Okay, so then go back to your main screen. So you can just hit second quit. Because now you're going to actually do algebra. So let's go back to here for a minute. So if you think about a normal equation, usually if this was just a plain multiply, you would like divide by this matrix to get it over here. Well, there is no division in matrix operation. You do the inverse of this matrix. You're going to invert it. And the whole process of inverting it is kind of annoying, which is why we're using our calculator. So you're going to end up with xy equals 2, -3, -3, 5, and its inverse, that symbol means inverse, not necessarily to the -1 power, times that. So we're going to calculate or find the inverse matrix. So if you go to your matrix menu, now you're going to go to math. You have all these different options. And actually, you don't need to go to the math menu anymore because they've changed this a wee bit. So if you go to your matrix menu and you just go to names, if you just hit enter or hit 1 in this menu, it's going to pop it up on the screen, matrix A. You want the inverse of matrix A? So you're going to hit this button right here, the x to the -1. That's telling you it's going to take the inverse of matrix A. And if you were curious, this is what the inverse of matrix A is. But you're going to take the inverse of matrix A and you're going to multiply it by, oops. You're going to take the inverse of matrix A and you're going to multiply it. So go second matrix again. And this time you're going to pick option 2 or use your arrow key and hit enter to put up B. And then you get 4, 3. So you have matrix XY equals 4, 3. Which means that 4 is X and 3 is Y. And if you wanted to, you could check 2 times 4 minus 3 times 3. 2 times 4 is 8, minus 9, 1. Oh, that's right. And then we have -3 times 4 plus 5 times 3. -3 times 4 is -12. 5 times 3 is 15. Yep, that's 3. So it works. You can do this with any system. So if it's a 3-variable system or a 4-variable system, any of those will get you can solve using this process. It's just very important that you write it down correctly. It's very important that you remember when you're multiplying the two matrices, you have to do the inverse of your 2 by 2 matrix. And the 2 by 2 matrix, or if it was a 3 by 3 or a 4 by 4 or whatever, has to go first. Otherwise, your calculator will pop up with an error. And I think that's enough for today. Go ahead, rewind if you have any questions, let me know if you need anything, and as always, make good choices.